I can finally tell you the joke that I've been working on.
Okay.
Okay, so I've been working on this joke, and I'm super excited for if they adapt this to comic books, because then they can just call it Christ is on Infinite Earths.
That's
what I've been working on. Hello and welcome to the second episode of Our Dark Materials, a His Dark Materials HBO and BBC production. In this podcast, we will be talking about the second episode, the idea of the North. The idea of North.
Yes.
And in the first half, we just recap the episode, talk about how we liked it and all of that stuff. In the second half, we dive into our knowledge from the books and maybe spoil some stuff. I'm James. I'm your host, and this week, no, I did elephant last week, didn't I?
No, you did a goose.
Oh, okay. This week, my demon is going to be a pink elephant because I like to drink a lot. And my co-host and go on parades. And my co-host with me today is Josie.
Yes, I'm Josie. My demon would take the form of something small and fuzzy. Let's say a rabbit, because, I don't know why it would just take a form of a rabbit. Sometimes your demon just wants to be a form. It doesn't, need to be a form for a reason.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say this time. I don't know.
Oh, no. Okay.
If you listened to our last episode and was a little bit disappointed with the cutoff of where, the non-spoilery section is, I'm hoping that I did our notes a little bit better and you can get some better non-spoilery conversation.
Yeah, it's a process. We're still working it out, and we'll get it down by the last episode.
Yeah.
All right. You have a summary. Why don't we start off?
All right. So in this episode, we start off with Mrs. Coulter showing Lyra her, quote, new home. She kind of looks around. This is cool. Whatever. Then
I see that Mrs. Coulter shops at West Elm to do all of her decorations. And speaking of West Elm, send us a credenza.
Then we get Billy and Roger being united after being kidnapped. That's sweet. We don't really get that in the books. Lyra and Mrs. Coulter get lunch at the Arctic Institute. Then the Egyptians plan an attack on the Gobblers. Mrs. Coulter gives Lyra a bath, where we first get the idea of her being angry at Lyra for lying to her. Pan has misgivings, but Lyra reassures him that they deserve nice things. Lyra gets a new dress and is told about the party that Mrs. Coulter is having that night. Lord Boreal goes to Jordan College and asks the master if he can see Grumman's head. He is denied. Lyra cannot escape from school. She gets to tell Mrs. Coulter about space dust.
And that kind of puts Mrs. Coulter off. She drops the dust word, and it's just like,
ooh.
What? How did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
What do you know about that?
Fadakorum shows Ma Costa Billy's sweater, proving that he was actually kidnapped by the Gobblers.
After they Rainbow Six sieged into that empty building and found the sweater vest, the number one mama's boy attire. So we know for a fact that Billy would not have just run off.
Mama's boy attire. Back at the Magisterium, Father McPhail and the Cardinal discuss that the General Oblation Board is being too risky.
I'm going to call this Cardinal the Cardinal Cockroach, because it looks like he has a cockroach for a demon.
It does, huh?
Yeah, and he's just creepy like that.
Because the Egyptians found an old hideout but did not find the children. Pan wakes up Lyra for the second time in the middle of the night because he hears noises in the vents. They follow the sounds to Mrs. Coulter's study, where Lyra finds the monkey demon inside. But Mrs. Coulter is all the way at the other end of the hall. Demons aren't supposed to be able to be that far from their humans.
Yeah, there's only a certain amount of distance that a demon can go from their person, and this is definitely further than what we've ever seen before.
Yeah.
And it kind of has Lyra shook.
Yeah. Boreal sneaks into the crypts to look for Grumman's skull. We can see that it has a hole in it. He claims, after touching it, that it is not Grumman's skull after all. He then walks through a fucking portal into another world. All right.
Which is why I felt comfortable with my Christ is on Infinite Earths.
Yeah.
It works. It works.
It really does.
I'm proud of that one.
He's been working on that for a while, not telling me what it was, and it's like, all right.
The buildup was not quite there.
For me, not for you guys. Father McPhail then visits Mrs. Coulter to deliver the Cardinal's message. Lyra snoops and gets caught.
By another creepy magisterium member with an insect that just crawls all over his face. I mean,
creepy man has a creepy demon is creepy.
Is creepy. That's pretty much like a psychotic. Letting the bug just crawl over without flinching in any way, shape, or form.
It's weird.
Dude's a psychopath.
It's weird. Mrs. Coulter accidentally... Oh, wait, no, I skipped ahead. Mrs. Coulter's demon then attacks Pan when Lyra calls her out for losing her cool. Mrs. Coulter demands that Lyra is better behaved in the future.
There is so much tension in this scene. Like, we might be dropping this scene in, but oh, man, this is harsh.
Mm-hmm. Like, every time we watched this episode twice, and both times we had to, like, pause and, like, hardcore
the
type
tension
out.
Like the tension was so thick you could cut it with like a subtle knife or something.
Okay,
that's how thick the tension is.
Mrs. Coulter accidentally drops that Lord Azrael is actually Lyra's father when she calls him a failure. Lyra,
as a quote, what has that man ever done? When has that man ever done anything for you? He's done nothing. He's a failure of a man and a failure of a father. Oh shit.
Right. After their fight, Lyra then tries to use the alethiometer again, but gets frustrated and gives up. Lord Boreal has a lackey in this other world who is very interested in his demon. Seems like this world doesn't have demons everywhere.
Sorry, I've got to jump us back to Lyra trying to use the alethiometer.
Yeah.
We spent way too much time, like,
we did.
freeze framing, trying to see
we
what...
did. We'll tell you guys.
Symbols it landed on and all of that, but we spent like a good hour, maybe
not that long, but a long time.
Yeah, it was a lot.
So then,
sorry, back to the other world.
It's all good. Well, that's basically it. He has a lackey. He's gonna look for a guy with an osprey. Mrs. Coulter tries to convince Lyra that maybe Roger never left Jordan College and she can't find him because she can't find him.
Yeah, and then just says maybe Lyra should move on, and Lyra just like, bitch, you lying.
Yeah. Mrs. Coulter leaves to visit the children and have them write letters to their families. She meets Roger for the first time. She then throws all of their letters away, promptly walking out.
Thus sealing her in the whole, like, this person's evil.
Yeah.
Like, we now know for a fact this woman is evil.
Mm-hmm. Lyra investigates while Mrs. Coulter is gone and sneaks into her study where she finds blueprints for a place called The Station and a machine that shows a human and their demon in it.
And something that, like, might be separating them.
Like, they're kind of... like it's a cut, but
it kind of looks like they're in cages, and then there's something that might come between. Mm-hmm. But we don't know yet.
Yep. Later at the party, Lyra is serving drinks to guests when she meets a journalist who tells her that Mrs. Coulter is the General Oblation Board, who are the Gobblers.
Now we have the confirmation that the General Oblation Board, GOB, is long for Gobblers, and the same people that took Roger.
And Billy.
And Lyra starts putting two and two together.
Yep, and that scares her. Mm-hmm. So she runs away after getting the alethiometer by climbing out the window.
Like, she was about to just leave through the elevator, which was left unattended. And then she's like, no, I'm not going to leave it. I can't leave it. Goes back to her room, pulls out the bag that the alethiometer is in from under the couch cushion, and then out the window.
Yep. Then Lord Boreal escorts the journalist to his car, where he then crushes her butterfly demon, possibly killing her. We're not sure
because it's kind of like you see a little bit of twitching from the demon, but that could just be the last gasps of life type
also,
twitches.
when demons die, or when the people die, their demons disappear.
And yeah,
And it hadn't quite disappeared.
it hadn't disappeared, but it could be dying.
And then as Lyra is running away, she gets gobbled.
She's gobbled up. Bah, 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 bah.
It was funnier in my notes, but like
Lyra
she gets
gets
kidnapped
gobbled.
by the person with the fox demon.
Ooh.
Yes. And
Same one who took Billy. Same one who took Roger.
yeah, and also after like looking in the books again, I'm pretty sure they're just trying to say it's a fox, not a jackal.
I was hoping for a jackal. We can go into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
After we check, or when we're checking the alethiometer, I can explain that theory a bit more. Just because of the extended books. But
so we kind of want to go into the differences between the books and this episode. This is still the non-spoiler section.
yeah.
Everything Billy and Roger is not in the books except for the letter writing sequence.
Yeah, so we see the letter writing, but that's not necessarily with Billy and Roger.
Yeah, it's just the children in general.
It's the children in general, and she helps, like, she does help Billy, aka Tony,
Yeah,
Tony too, who doesn't know how to write a letter to his mom.
Yeah.
And then there's like the other kids who do know how to write letters, and she lets them write letters. But the tell your parents where we're going on an adventure type thing. And we're going to the best place for you ever, and collect all the notes.
You're going to be so helpful.
And leave the room and then throw all those letters into the incinerator.
Yeah, so that's the same. The only difference is really that she doesn't meet Roger. In fact, I don't think she ever even knows who Roger is.
I don't think she ever like understands who Roger is
No.
in the book in any way, shape, or form.
I think they've definitely strengthened the friendship between Lyra and Billy, because in the books, it's not that she's forgotten about him, because, you know,
Roger.
Sorry.
Lyra and Roger.
I wrote Billy for some reason. Lyra and Roger.
Yeah.
Because in the books, like, she knows he's missing, but she gets so excited about Mrs. Coulter that she kind of forgets about him, and then she's really distracted while she's in London with all of the stuff going on there.
Yeah, they've kind of just expanded Roger in every form, because in the books he's just kind of like a sidekick that then is more of a MacGuffin instead of an individual. But with this series, he is a human.
And I like that.
Yeah, I like that, because like in the first episode when he just gives her the download on oh, there was an Egyptian boy named Billy that was taken and all of that. Like that's something that Lyra figures out when she's out playing with all of the other kids.
Yeah, like I
and they
think
do
she
like a whole on
was playing with Billy, but we don't really know because she plays with a lot of kids who aren't Billy.
Yeah, because they do a whole on search party because Billy's missing, and then they do a search party, and then she gets back and then finds out that like the very next day Roger gets taken, and that's all book stuff.
Yeah. The bath scene is also kind of interesting because it shows the monkey demon facing away, but it doesn't include Mrs. Coulter giving Pan the dirty look.
Yeah,
forcing him to look away as well.
Teaching a little bit of decorum, because it's like when you have babies, it doesn't matter if they're male or female, you bathe them all together. But as you get a little bit older, closer to puberty, then you kind of separate them. And in these worlds, the demons are usually the opposite gender of their person, so
but it's still weird, like, because a demon is
it's a part of you.
Yeah, so it's so weird to have this like situation where they expect the demon, a part of yourself, to look away from you while you're bathing.
But on that hand, this is also coming from somebody who works for the magisterium.
True.
A very conservative, very like strict no thing.
Well, okay, so it's kind of like hiding your own sexuality away from yourself.
You'll have to explain.
So, you know how, like, in a lot of religions, they're very against masturbation and, like, any sort of exploratory with your sexual side of yourself type of thing?
Yeah.
Maybe teaching people to have their demons look away while they're doing something as innocent as bathing themselves is a part of like that no masturbation type thing.
Yeah, I could see that.
Keeping a part of your sexuality away from yourself, like hiding that, making it shameful.
Yeah.
Am I just like, they probably won't ever step into it because the book definitely doesn't.
No.
But like that's a
I think
That's
you're
kind of
reading like
interesting.
really too far into it, but it's a very interesting
Yeah.
take on it. So I like that. I don't think that's quite exactly what it is. I don't think they have it planned out what it is. I do like that take.
Okay. Do you have anything else like that?
No, I think, well, it's,
Well, so about that part, like
yeah, no.
Okay, so I have kind of like thoughts about the monkey demon.
Okay.
The monkey demon really does seem separated from Mrs. Coulter.
They're closer to being individuals or
Yeah.
individual creatures instead of one and the same.
He does what she wants, but like a lot in the books, even up to this point, has explained that like you can kind of see people's inner thoughts or feelings or subconsciousness by the way that their demons are acting.
Yeah.
The cooler they are or the more calm and collected they are, the better their demons are at like hiding what they're truly feeling. But like a lot of people kind of accidentally show
Their true feelings
Yeah.
through their demons. And they do kind of show that
a little bit.
when Lyra drops the dust word
True.
and Mrs. Coulter grabs the nape of her monkey's neck.
That's kind of different from the book too.
Well, no, because she does, like, they do talk about how she, like, kind of puts her hand on her demon monkey in the book, and it's, like, more of a extra exertion of control.
Yeah.
But, like, that in and of itself is a tell.
Yeah. Well, so here's the like kind of difference of it. So in the show, we've got her just like automatically grabbing her demon, but her demon is just kind of like looking and is like extra interested.
He seemed a little tense.
A little tense.
I was like, oh, that word.
And then when it shoots back to him again, it really looks like she's just hurting him.
She's doing a little too much pressure.
Right. So here's the excerpt from the book.
Okay.
So later, Pantalaimon said, "You know, when all the fur stood up on her demon, well, I was behind him, and she grabbed his fur so tight her knuckles went white. You couldn't see it. It was a long time till his fur went down. I thought he was going to leap at you." So in the book, I feel like it shows that he was actually showing her inner thoughts of like freaking out because she's talking about dust, and she is like,
she's like
"Hey,
controlling
no,
that, like,
don't
no,
you
we're
dare,
not going
don't
to.
show this, don't do that." Where
Yeah.
in the show, I feel like she's taking her anger out on the monkey.
She kind of does that, yeah, because there's another scene when there's like the oh, you were away from your demon, how is that possible?
Yeah.
After Mrs. Coulter sends Lyra back to bed, she closes the door and then just kind of like smacks her demon,
Which,
like just the back of the head smack.
I
Which
have never seen anybody physically be mean to their own demon.
yeah, there is precedent of it
Yeah.
in the extended books.
Oh, okay. So we'll talk about that later.
So if you would like to discover that for your own, like we will talk about it later, but if you would like to discover it for your own, it takes place in the Book of Dust, Book 1, La Belle Sauvage. Just information for you.
Okay.
They do kind of touch on that.
Okay, cool.
We'll talk about it later, though.
All right, yeah. So I was just like, it looks a lot like she's taking her anger out on him instead of trying to keep him from jumping at her / keeping his cool type thing.
Yeah.
If we're jumping forward to the next scene where Ma Costa learns that Billy's sweater.
Oh, she gets Billy's sweater vest?
Yeah. I feel that she's way more trusting of Lord Fa in the books than in the show. I don't know.
They kind of make it a bit more intimate. Like, I almost wonder if Lord Fa is Billy's father.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe because it's very much like we're gonna find him. Like they go off to the side, and it's a very intimate, like not sexual, but like almost feels like two parents,
Yeah.
one reassuring the other.
Well, I mean, Billy and Tony clearly have different fathers.
Yeah,
So that's interesting.
yeah.
never
I
thought
think
about that.
in the show, Billy might be Lord Fa's son, but it could be that there's such a nomadic tribe that it's the mother that takes care of the children,
Yeah.
and the father is in the picture, but it's more of like a village of type thing.
Yeah.
That
Well, yeah. I mean,
it's like
they
not,
definitely take the child raised by the village thing
yeah,
quite far.
yeah, but it's like the mother that is the parent, and then the father doesn't really count as parent. They're just a part of the village.
Possibly.
They can step in a little more, but they're not expected to.
Yeah. But I thought that was kind of interesting. And
Yeah.
they show a picture of of
Of
Billy,
Billy.
with his demon.
Mhm.
And then I kind of wonder, if you're getting any type of sketch done, do they just like include your demon always?
I think so.
Even when you're like a child and it
Yeah.
hasn't settled?
I think so, because like you can see, you know how like you look at pictures of yourself growing up and you just see like the progression
Mm-hmm.
of your personality as it develops.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of another way to show that in this world.
Okay.
That normally that's more like this type of animal, but at this age it was more of a, instead of more of a bird, it was more of a mammal, and then like, oh no, you went back to more of a bird type thing, where it's like, ooh,
Oh, I
they're a
kinda
little
like
like sneaky,
that.
so it's a bit more reptilian or something like that. It doesn't really matter what animal, but I think it does good. That's a good way to show the progression of development of personality.
Mm-hmm. That actually brings me straight into my next note.
Okay.
Does every Magisterium member have like a small bug or reptile demon?
I will believe it until I see otherwise.
Because so far we've got a snake, we've got like a gecko.
Well, Lord Boreal is not a Magisterium member,
Oh, but he works for him.
but he works for them, just like Mrs. Coulter works for the Magisterium. But
okay,
she's
okay.
not a member of the clergy.
Okay.
But clergy members seem to have kind of like insectoid or reptilian
Yeah, because
demons so far.
okay, so if we're not including Lord Boreal,
Hmm.
we've got 2 people,
We have the Cardinal of
With-
Cockroaches,
bug,
and then the other father
yeah,
with Father McPhail that
and they
had
both
insect.
fly.
Yes.
And then Father McPhail had like a gecko. Or,
Yeah, some type of small lizard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So that's interesting if they use those types of animals to be like they're more sneaky.
But on the flip side of that, the librarian had a gecko demon that we were introduced to at the very, very beginning in the first episode.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily, if it's a reptile, then it's sneaky, but it's a better probability that that's what their personality type is.
Yeah. I mean, they do talk about like the demon settling in specific forms kind of like shows who you are type thing.
It could be that the lizards are more studious in some way, shape, or form, and it just happens that the librarian is more warm about it, and Father McPhail is a bit more like cold and calculating about it.
Yeah. Moving on to when Mrs. Coulter's monkey is very clearly like far away from her.
Separated.
When we rewatch that scene, when Mrs. Coulter turns the corner, there is no monkey with her.
Yeah.
For sure. No monkey.
For sure.
Then as she's walking down the hall, there's still no monkey, still no monkey. And then right before he steps out, you can kind of see his shadow behind her. So it's clear, like, they're trying to be like, oh, he was walking behind her the whole time. But it's also kind of a part of that area where that loose...
The loose grate is, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very much like you're distracted by Mrs. Coulter walking for him to slip out and then catch up.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could actually see him coming out of the wall, but
You can't.
No. So that's like that's interesting. I liked
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we'll go a bit more into that later.
Yeah. I have questions. I want to know why Lord Boreal knows that it's not Grumman's head.
I think because of the tree panning in the skull. This is our first not introduction, but this is the first time we see the hole in the skull, which is called tree panning, or trepanation, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I think because he might just know that Grumman never had that process done, so the fact that the skull has it, he's like, this isn't Grumman.
Okay.
It's just more personal knowledge.
Okay. When he crosses back and forth between the worlds, that's very different from the book.
That is extremely different. We'll go more into the spoilers on the differences.
Yeah, just know it's different.
It's different. If you'd like to learn more and you don't care about spoilers or possible spoilers, stick around.
This world has cars, phones, and parking tickets.
Those dreaded parking tickets.
Right? Gosh, leave his car there for too long.
It's a great way to show a passage of time. Not one, but 2 parking tickets.
Yeah. I liked when or Father McPhail goes to visit Mrs. Coulter. She's like, "Here, let me use my bra as a pocket."
Oh, let me
in
tempt
front
you in
of-
some way.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, creepy bug man on creepy bug on creepy man's face is creepy.
Yep. Yep. Psycho.
Oh, so when it comes to the scene where they're fighting, Mrs. Coulter's monkey attacks Pan. It's interesting because I know that in the books the demons show dominance over each other. And
They kind of have a standoff.
They kind of
every
have a
now and then.
standoff, and they can get physical with each other, but it's not as often. Usually it's just a and the other one's like
Yeah. I think if it would become like a bit more of a physical altercation, then the demons would go into a fight before the humans would. And that's kind of just how it is there. But it does happen. It's just not as often.
And probably shouldn't happen between an adult and a child.
I mean, unless you're like some teenager that's rebelling and that's just how they keep you in line type thing.
Kinda. I don't know. This just seemed really...
Oh, it was straight up child abuse.
Yeah.
Like you do that to a child, you're abusing that child.
Mrs. Coulter absolutely loses control. Like, she tries to say, I wasn't angry. I didn't lose control before, but like...
She didn't lose control, and then she lost control.
Exactly. Like, she really wasn't. She was getting angry, but like, I guess for that could be a little bit losing control, but...
I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just like, you can tell she definitely lost control when she accidentally drops that Lord Asriel is Lyra's father.
Accidentally. She does that on purpose. That is a way to harm Lyra.
Really?
Even
I think it's
more
an accident.
Even more so, a way to harm because you break her down and then you build her up.
I mean, yeah. But she obviously has strong feelings towards Lord Asriel, whether they're good or bad. Like, they're not just, oh, this is a person I know. The comments about like who the mother is, and he always had a woman on his arm.
Yeah.
Those are strong feelings.
Yeah. There was definitely something there.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the alethiometer part.
All right, we want to go into the alethiometer part?
Yes.
All right, let's pull it out.
Oh, wait, no.
Oh,
sorry. No? I mean the part of the show where...
Oh.
Yeah.
Gotcha. The part that we spent way too long on.
Yes, because we kept trying to figure out like where it was at and like what it landed on and what it might mean. And I couldn't. So we're gonna...
So we did pause. We like pulled up pictures of the alethiometer and all the symbols to try and figure it out. It's still not working for her, so she tosses it aside. And then we see the needle move. When we see the needle move, it was on the tree. And we think it moves over to the marionette.
Yeah,
right?
We weren't sure. We like at one point I was like sure it was the baby, and then at another point we were sure it was like the gecko. Or
the
lizard.
chameleon,
The chameleon, yeah. And I'm pretty sure it's the marionette.
It moves from the tree, which in this little image that I have that kind of breaks down the symbols, it means firmness, shelter, and fertility. I don't think it means fertility. But if it moves over to the marionette, that would make it interesting. It would, because according to this, the marionette is obedience. It's submissiveness.
Interesting. I don't think that this is supposed to mean anything. Like where it lands is supposed to mean anything. I was hoping it would, but
I think it kind of does, because if you listen to Lyra, she's kind of in a state of mind that's just, what do I do?
True.
Right after essentially being beaten into submissiveness.
That's true. But she's asking, where's Billy? Where is Lord Asriel? Or where is my Asriel?
Where is my Asriel?
Yeah.
But yeah.
After all of that, I thought it was kind of funny that when she decides to use pillows to try to block the vents, like they're gonna save, like they're really gonna block him.
Well, they're not gonna block being able to hear, but it will muffle it a little bit, and it's definitely gonna be blocking the viewpoint.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't be able to watch her. And then she crawls into her little fort that she makes, and they are whispering. So I think it's not a professional job, but it's enough.
Okay.
It's enough for the paranoid.
When she talks to the journalist, that is the first connection that we get. Well, not the first connection. They've been hinting the whole episode.
They've been hinting at it, but it is the very first like official. Yes, they are the same thing.
Yeah.
The General Oblation Board does mean gobblers.
Yeah, GOB. When Boreal maybe kills the journalist by crushing her demon, it's the first time that we've seen anyone touching each other, like someone else's demon.
Because there's like a great taboo about touching another person's demon.
Yeah.
And this is just wiped aside.
Yeah. And then another difference is that in the book, the journalist is just kicked out. There's like no hint of her being injured or killed. It's you'll never work in this town again.
Yeah.
So that's a big difference.
Yeah.
But I think that's all I've got on the non-spoilery side.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's actually check our alethiometer.
Yeah.
Let's see if it goes from the tree to the marionette or not. Maybe it goes to the anchor. Maybe it goes to the lightning bolt.
All right, so this time we're going to tell you guys that we are a part of the Hello Sweetie Podcast Network. Please visit hellosweetiepodcastnetwork.com to see other awesome podcasts like ours. If you would like to talk with us about our things or give us your own ideas of what's going on, you can email us
at ourdarkmaterialspod
at gmail.com.
at gmail.com.
Yeah. You can also go to our website, ourdarkmaterials.com, and comment on our post there or on YouTube.
Our Dark Materials.
Yes.
Yeah. Google.
And
They'll
if
pull
you
it up.
Leave us a 5-star rating, I will absolutely rate it on here. Anything you say will be read. If it's less than, it's my discretion.
Yeah. 5 stars, say what you want.
All right. On to the alethiometer.
All right. In the alethiometer section, we are going to get into spoilers. We are going to talk about so much book knowledge. Where do you want to start?
Do you want to tell me about the demon abuse that's covered in the La Belle Sauvage?
Okay, the demon abuse. So, in La Belle Sauvage, there is a guy named Rosakov, and he has a jackal demon. He is the one...
That's why you wanted it to be a jackal.
He is the one that first discovered dust. That's why they're called the Rosakov particles. I think it's mentioned in the book, in the first book, Rosakov particles. Oh, that's what we refer to as dust, blah, 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 blah. But he is the one that discovers that, and he has a jackal demon. He's kind of the bad guy that he's trying to kidnap Lyra, baby Lyra.
Oh.
And it ties into that things don't necessarily work out. He attacks Father Coram when Father Corum's a younger man and can fight off a bit more. And there's a big fight between their demons.
As well, yeah.
And Father Coram actually kind of breaks the taboo and grabs the jackal to give the a shock.
Yeah.
To win in that fight. And basically run away now. He breaks one of the jackal's legs.
Oh my gosh.
Later on, the jackal only has 3 legs.
Oh my gosh.
And we find out that Rosakov is abusing his demon. He's beating it. He removed the leg. He is just a right-on bastard towards it. So it's just okay, this person is crazy. What type of person would do something like that to the demon?
Again, because your demon's supposed to be like your soul.
He must be insane.
Right.
So we have that, and it goes on and all of that. But you talk about somebody who abuses their demon, somebody in lust for power that is going to do anything they can and will, even if it means beating the shit out of and
it's
harming your demon.
Self-harm, kind of.
It's a form of self-harm, yeah. It's interesting because it's kind of he gets injured, and then the next time you see him, he's fine, but his demon's missing the leg. He's fine, but the demon's limping now. And it's kind of he transfers that injury to his demon by abusing it. It's weird.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Lord Boreal First of all, being introduced that he's already going, like, obviously at this point he is going back and forth between worlds, but like just straight up showing it.
Showing that he's going through windows.
Damn, dude.
We're in the subtle knife territory. We are in book 2 territory. I'm also surprised that you didn't recognize.
No, I
his name in
totally
the
didn't.
first.
We were watching it, and suddenly when, like, I had this moment earlier when it first shows his snake demon. Like, I know he shows it in the first episode, but when it first shows his snake demon, and it's like, oh, it's a snake, and I'm like, oh, that one guy in the other
like a
world has a
serpent, yeah.
snake, and then it shows it again, and I'm just like, wait a fucking second, I think this is the same guy. I totally forgot about it because
Yeah.
recently I've only reread the first book. I haven't gone back to reread the second book yet, so I can forget some of those things.
But yeah.
But yeah, same fucking guy.
Same guy. And the interesting thing is that they really kind of streamline it by having him go through the window from Lyra's Oxford to, I'm going to call it our Oxford.
Oh, because it straight up is.
Because it basically is our world
Yeah.
in the books. Not normally, in the books, in the Subtle Knife, he has to pass through another world with this town called Chitagatsi. And that is a very, very dangerous place for adults. That's why he doesn't normally travel back and forth very often.
Yeah.
But this one, they kind of make it more of a free travel.
Straightforward,
He's
easy
able to go
do.
easy back and forth, which I kind of like.
Yeah. It makes it less for them to have to, like, talk about, I
Yeah.
guess, this early on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we have multiple worlds.
Mm-hmm. This is definitely introducing at least a second one.
Yeah, and so the guy with the osprey,
Mm-hmm.
I think that is Grumman. If I remember correctly, that is
You're
Grumman.
right. Yeah, because
And
he
that's
says
why
it's not
he's looking
Grumman.
for.
And then he goes and tells his lackey to look for a guy with an osprey. I'm pretty sure you're right.
Yeah, and he wants to know what Grumman knows. He says that Grumman has been researching other worlds and all of that, and he wants to know what Grumman knows.
Yeah.
So I think that's how he knows that the skull isn't Grumman's, because he knows Grumman is different.
Yeah. Also, like, with how Mrs. Coulter's monkey can go away from her.
The separation?
Yeah. So I don't think that they've had the cut, like the actual cut separating her demon from her, happening in the show. It never happens in the book.
It never happens
For
in the
sure.
book. She's malicious enough to kind of push those boundaries that it's just like, most people can go 5 meters.
Yeah.
Let's push this to 7. Let's
They're
push
just
this to 10.
Making it a bigger deal in the show than they are in the books.
They kind of gloss over it in the books, but they
little
do
bit.
point out that somehow she's able to go a little further.
Mm-hmm.
But then after that, we learn about witches.
Yeah.
We learn that they have
like an actual
a way
ceremony.
to separate, and it's like they go through the wastes, and their demons aren't able to follow.
Mm-hmm.
So by the witch going through the waste and the demon having to stay on the other side, that is what allows them to separate and go vast distances away from each other.
But not
they're
go
still
zombie-like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I'm just like, I wonder what they're going to be pushing, if they're going to be changing that portion of it, making her kind of like a little more like the witches, or if they're going to be like, oh yeah, I had the separation done and I'm fine.
Yeah, I think it is still going to be more like willpower, because that's basically what it is for the witches.
Yeah.
They understand that it's painful. This is what they need to do.
Yeah.
And
Because Mrs. Coulter would never.
No, but she is a strong, willful woman.
She is. At this point, I also don't think that they've mentioned the unspoken rule that people's demons can touch each other, but people cannot touch each other's demons.
Like the great taboo of, well, it's kind of like, this is a very special part of somebody. You don't touch that.
Mm-hmm.
That's stranger danger. That's show me on the doll type thing that you don't necessarily need to talk about, but everybody knows it's bad.
Yeah.
It's just interesting that they don't really cover that and
No.
then have that happen.
Yeah, it's just like she's shocked that he's touching her butterfly at all, and then
And
he
then
crushes it.
it.
Yeah. And then all I've got is that Lyra isn't taken this early by the gobblers in the storyline unless this is the part that immediately after this she meets up with the Egyptians.
I'm pretty sure that in the next episode, we're going to open up with her in the net, and then there's going to be an arrow in that guy's neck, and the
Yeah.
Egyptians are going to save her. In the books, they do have a bit more of Lyra's time out on the street, because
Yeah, that's
she goes
true.
to
She
like an
talks
open
to a
market and she
guy.
talks with a guy who kind of tries to abduct her by offering her some booze and her coffee, and she's like, oh no, I'm just waiting for my father. He's a murderer. And that kind of throws the guy off. And I was like, oh, I think I see him right now. He looks upset and then leaves. And then she like goes down a few alleyways trying to find a place to spend the night. And then she's gobbled. But right after that,
yeah, she meets up with the Egyptians. They
saved
save
by
her.
the Egyptians. And then
I think they're definitely going to make this a guy a gobbler because obviously he's the same guy who kidnapped Billy and Roger. But in the book, like it straight up says, we thought they was gobblers, but I reckon they were Turk traders.
Yeah.
So
I much like they cut out the tribe in the north in the first episode.
Yeah.
That Grumman, they're like, oh, normally it's these guys that killed Grumman, but no, in the show they had it just straight up the Magisterium. I think they're kind of cutting out the smaller bits of these off the map characters that don't really matter a whole lot.
Yeah, they don't. I get it. I mean, they were just immediately killed, so it's interesting to have it be like a gobbler person.
Yeah. But yeah,
I think that's all I've got.
I'm gonna place bets that the very first scene in the next episode is Lyra being saved.
Yeah.
Like this is our cliffhanger, but then she's immediately saved. She's hooked up with the Egyptians, and hopefully we start heading north because there are 8 episodes in the series.
And there's a lot of north stuff.
And there's a lot of north stuff that we need to get to.
Yeah.
We need to meet Yorick.
Yes.
I am excited for Yorick, almost as excited as Lyra was to see an armored bear skull. It's huge.
Oh, goodness.
Well, I'm excited for that. I'm also very excited for Lee Scoresby.
Oh, yes. I am interested in seeing how... oh, shoot. What's his name?
Lin-Manuel?
Yes, Lin-Manuel Miranda does it. I think
he's going to play the cool Southerner that isn't quite a Southerner.
Yeah, because Lee Scoresby is very...
laid back.
Preservationist? That's not the word.
Preservative? It's Lee is going to put his own life above anything else.
Which is like, yeah, fine.
Even if he's paid, like if it's everybody dies or he's able to escape, he'll hang around until it's the point of I can escape or I can die. And then he'll escape.
Yeah.
But he's not like a low down, dirty criminal.
No, he's still a good guy.
Yeah, he's still a good guy. He still maintains his contract. He just wants to make sure he can walk away from his contract.
Yeah.
But he's a chill dude. He's like the kind of a Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah. Maybe we meet up with him next episode.
I hope so.
Because we meet him before Yorick, so.
Yeah. No, we meet Yorick before Lee.
Oh, you're right. It goes Yorick, Lee, Yorick.
Yorick.
Yeah. Okay.
And then to the north.
All right.
But yeah, with that, yeah, like, share, subscribe, do what you need to do. 5-star reviews. If you leave a 5-star review, we'll read it on the podcast.
If you leave us an email, we will most likely reply, maybe not read it on the podcast. We'll see.
It depends on how well it works with the content. Maybe you'll bring up something that we need to talk about, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, if you want us to talk about something, tell us. That is the only way we'll know.
Yeah.
Anyway, how do we end?
With this, we still haven't gone north. I'll see you in the north.
See you in the north.